What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 12 of my reviewing and ranking Bob Dylan's Bootleg series, and we are now on volume 14. 12 because the first volume was 1 through 3. I'm going to talk about volume 14, and then I'm going to rank it among the other 11 that have been released, because 1 and 3 have not been released separately. They're one entity, as they kind of should be. So anyways, volume 14, as you know already, if you can read, or maybe you don't know, maybe you just randomly click this and aren't looking at words. It is More Blood, More Tracks. The bootleg series that looks at the recording of Blood on the Tracks. It doesn't simply look at the recording of Blood on the Tracks. It is, my understanding is correct, every single thing that was recorded in the recording sessions for Blood on the Tracks. 6 CDs. There is a single CD edition, which I'll talk about later. And we start on September 16th, 1974 with Take One of You See Her, If You See Her, Say Hello. We continue all the way through the 16th, the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, and then we jump all the way to December when we have those 5 songs that were re-recorded and eventually made it on the album itself, Blood on the Tracks. So 5.5 CDs plus official songs of the recordings of this album in chronological order is my understanding. You have 13 songs on this box set. There are 87 tracks, but only 13 songs. You get the 10 songs that were on Blood on the Tracks. You get several versions of Up to Me, which was released on Biograph, but was recorded during these sessions. You get versions of Call Letter Blues, which is sort of a proto version of Meet Me in the Morning. We got a version of that on Bootleg Series 1. And then you have a just random, because Bob likes to throw this in random places throughout his catalog. We get a nice cover of Spanish is the Loving Tongue, just right towards the middle of the sessions. Fun little just detour all of a sudden. But that's it. Those are the 13 songs. In fact, that is actually the breakdown of what you get right there. You get 9 Tangled Up in Blues. You get 7 Simple Twist of Fate. That's it. 8, 9, 12, You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Goes. You only get 3, Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. That's probably the one song that kind of, there are no real versions here other than an extra verse. We do get an extra verse that wasn't in the final version. That's the one that probably is the most anemic, and it's sort of what we get from other versions. 12 Buckets of Rain. You never knew you needed 12 buckets of rain until this came out. 9 Up to Me's, including one that's like 20-second song when he just starts and he starts over. We get a number of different start and start over things on this. But that's what you get. Those 13 songs in lots of different versions. And unlike Volume 12, The Cutting Edge, which hyper-focused on the Dylan's early electric period, like the latter half of Bring It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, and Blonde on Blonde. This one, the differences in the songs, like if you're already familiar with Blood on the Tracks, and you're also familiar with the tracks that have been released on either Biograph or specifically Bootleg Series 1 to 3. Nothing on here is going to surprise you. Sort of the simplicity, the just guitar, harmonica, I can hear his sleeves on the string type directness of some of the tracks might surprise you if you haven't heard Bootleg Series 1 through 3. But even that, they're not drastically different versions of these songs. I think on Volume 12, you had a little more, those songs were reworked in quite different ways. You're like, oh, that's weird. Like a Rolling Stone is a waltz, right? And all these sort of high, low, different versions. There are differences lyrically, musically, though the highs and the lows, or the dips are not that great. There's some songs that have a nice, like, I think it's a pedal steel that's working in the background that gives like especially a Simple Twist of Fate, just a really nice different vibe in one of the early versions. I think one of the versions on disc 1. So there are some differences, but I would sort of compare the differences to like those puzzles where you have like two pictures and they look the same, and it's like, can you find the 12 hidden differences? My kindergarten class, they love to do those things. Really good for visual discrimination. We do them, you know, a lot at the end of the day when we're kind of unwinding. And that's kind of what these versions are. Like, they're not like, oh my God, that one was like hardcore and this one's country. And oh my gosh, that one is like some weird waltz and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, the lyrics changed a little bit in that one. That one maybe felt a little faster. Oh, there's drums on this one. Then, you know, that's a pretty easy, recognizable difference, but the drums are never in your face and forceful. You know, the whole thing is everything that happens musically on this entire release, it's all there to service the lyrics. And I think this is where, disclaimer, I recently ranked Bob Dylan's albums. Blood on the Tracks might be my number one album. It was. And if I had to rank my top 1,000 albums of all time, 1,001 albums that Shaggy must listen to before he dies, Blood on the Tracks is my all-time favorite album. It's my favorite album. So take everything I say positively about this box set with a huge grain of salt. A block of salt. A cave in Austria full of salt. A salt mine. And it's also the album I've heard far more than any other. My mom bought it when it came out in 75. We had it on 8-track, we had it on cassette, we had it on vinyl, we had it on CD. This album has been a part of my life since I remember listening to music. And I'm of the mindset that Blood on the Tracks, the album, as is perfect. And I've heard this box set and I've heard every other thing that's come out and I've loved that stuff. And I've never thought like, oh my gosh, the official album would be better if this was on it. However, there is a version of Blood on the Tracks that has different performances that is also perfect. I'm not going to say it's better, but it's also perfect. And the more I listen to this release, I have, you know, 2 CDs of this in my car at all points in time. They don't come in their own packaging, so I put it in one of those like 2-sided CD holder things, right? So I usually have 2 CDs of this in my car at all points in time, and I'll pop them in probably once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. And I've heard these songs so many times, but just the different pronouns in Tangled Up in Blue, just the extra verse in Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, the different instrumentation, the slightly different phrasing, just all the little stuff. It's like revisiting them. I don't know. It just sounds better and you appreciate it more. And it's like a director's cut of a movie, you know, where it's like, essentially it's, you know, the original movie's 2 hours and the director's cut is maybe 2 hours and 12 minutes. But those 12 minutes, if you're a fan of that movie, you really, 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 really appreciate those 12 minutes. Like, this isn't a director's cut from like 2 hours. If the original album's 2 hours, this really isn't a director's cut that makes it like 3 hours because the differences in the songs are not that drastic. It would be like a director's cut that, you know, just makes it, you know, a little bit longer. But it's just, I don't know. It blows me away. One more thing. I think one of the things I walk away just being super, super impressed, and I think the final album shows this, or this support, they complement each other, right? The final album and this, is that there is something so confident and so real and so from the heart about Blood on the Tracks, the final album, that listening to this, like especially, I mean, particularly the first 5.5 CDs, when it's all the stuff that's from September and it's just those 4 days, or 15, 16, 5 days when he went in the studio, and 4 days when he went in the studio and just knocked this stuff out. Like the first CD, like by the time you get to like the second CD, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you have 9 You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Goes in a row. Yeah, some of those in less than a minute because he messes up, but he's working on that song. He's like, hey, let's get this song down, right? Later on, you get a whole bunch of Buckets and Rain in the row, and then he takes a break and tries Up to Me and goes back to Buckets of Rain, then goes back to Up to Me, then goes back to Buckets of Rain, right? So you can see that there are certain times he's hyper-focused on a song. But disc 1, the very first day of recording, he comes in, we get 2 If You See Her Say Hellos, and he's pretty much nailing them. Like, one of these was released on Volume 3, and one of these is released on the single CD, which I'll talk about in about 2 minutes. Then he knocks out 2 You're a Big Girls Now. and one of those is on this single CD, the highlights. He knocks out Too Simple Twist of Fate. One of those is on the single CD. He knocks out then You're a Big Girl Now Again. Then he drops two Up to Me's, though the first one he messes up on. Then he drops a Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, kind of messes it up. And then he drops another Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. And then on the next CD, as we continue on the sessions, he drops a Simple Twist of Fate. So like, again, but he knows these songs. He's like living these songs. You can just like, it is almost like he's just sitting down and pouring out these confessions. It's just like, yeah, he's probably reading the lyrics, but it doesn't feel like he's reading the lyrics. It feels like he's living these songs. And so as someone who is like way over listened to the original album and knows every single note, like hearing this and having it in the context of, man, he just sat down one day and knocked out the version of like, that's going to be on the album. You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that. And so you get the entire album of Blood on the Tracks on these 6 CDs, only it's not in the order of Blood on the Tracks. It's in the order of the songs being recorded. Everything that was on Biograph, everything that was on the Bootleg series so far, anything that's been on a soundtrack, anything that's been released from this recording session is on this album in the order it was recorded. I think this is the greatest thing ever. If you're not a Blood on the Tracks fan, I recommend the sampler version. They released a single CD sampler version. This is the only release that does not have like that's long, that also has like a 2 CD companion. This is just a single CD companion that is every song recorded other than Spanish is a Loving Tongue. There's no Buckets of Rain, but you get one of what I think they did a good job picking the versions. Really good performances of the songs. So the sampler is really just an alternate Blood on the Tracks with a couple different songs that if you're not a hardcore Blood on the Tracks fan, it is a fantastic purchase. Like I will listen to it just because it really is. The sequencing, the songs, the choices that they put on there. Sometimes when I don't want to listen to 9 You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Goes in a row, I'll pop this on. You get a Tangled Up in Blue, If You See Her Say Hello, the Up to Me, which is such a fantastic song. You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go, Lily Rosemary, Jack of Hearts, You're a Big Girl Now, Shelter, Call Letter Blue, Simple Twist of Fate, and then we close out with An Idiot Wind. Great sequencing, great songs. It is a fantastic, fantastic release. In fact, if it was the only release, it was just a single CD, I would probably still put it in the same place. I'm going to put the 6 CDs. I put this at number 1. It is my favorite Bootleg series. Yeah, but I love the album. Like I have to admit, I'm a hardcore Blood on the Tracks fan. And this rewards that. And I still find the nuance of Dylan and just the passion of Dylan and just everything about this release is fantastic. Hate the title. I think More Blood, More Tracks is pretty stupid, pretty lazy. It's got to be a lyric somewhere in a song that you could have put this that would have made it work. Something in Up to Me, I'm sure. But yeah, it's my favorite. It's the thing I've been waiting for like forever. Like we knew these tapes existed. When they got trickled out, when they're on Bootleg, it's fantastic. But to have it all in the same place, this is fantastic. It sounds fantastic. It just sounds like you're just sitting in a recording studio with Bob Dylan, and this is just everything he's playing for 4 straight days. And then you get them coming back later to make the band versions, the sort of more realized versions that we hear on the Blood on the Tracks album. You get those to finish out the 6 CDs. The 6 CDs finish out strong. But yeah, I don't know, man. I can go on forever about this because I really think it is just absolutely a spectacular, spectacular release. If you don't like Blood on the Tracks, or if the single CD release is worth getting, it's worth finding. It is a good listen. Yeah, but that's all I got to say. I like explore this. It is a journey. It is Bob Dylan. It is so fascinating. It's one of the greatest albums ever made. It is his heart and his soul just pouring out into a studio, and it is absolutely amazing. You get an extra verse from Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. You get different pronouns in Tangle Up in Blue. You just get different energy in Idiot Wind, like more resigned and not as angry. Yeah, that's so fantastic. A lovelier version of Simple Twist of Fate that just seems to be a little more like made for the radio. I don't know. There's so many hidden gems to discover on this. You really should discover them for yourself. It's worth the journey, I would say. I love this release. Yeah, That's where I put it. Number one. I showed that, right? Number one, number one, number one. Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. I'm just rambling at this point. But yeah, my number one. It was destined from the beginning. I'm simple that way. I'm simple that way. But yeah, it's fantastic. 74 and 75. What two great years in music just in general. All right, that's all I got. Peace. Thanks for watching. Go listen to some Bob Dylan. Subscribe, like, share, comment, all that stuff. Talk to you later.